Welcome to the Clean Power Hour Live. Today on the Clean Power Hour, Illinois is investing $580 million a year in making the energy transition, and they're going to shutter all of their coal plants by 2045. I'm Tim Montague. Welcome to the show, my co-host, Commercial Solar Guy.
Hey, Timothy, how are you today? I hope everything's going well. So, Illinois is what, the fifth biggest state? I mean, they're pretty huge. What do you feel about what's going on there? I mean, I saw something that said no more fossils by 2045. That was cool, but whatever. 2045 is a while out. But what's going to happen there with the capacity?
Well, let's recap the story with Illinois, because there are some crocodile tears here, but we are a national leader in clean energy. We're catching up with our colleagues on the coast. You spoiled brats that pay too much for energy, and we're early adopters in the clean energy revolution. It makes sense, and we Midwesterners are not the earliest adopters for new technology. And solar, even though it's not new technology, it's new technology for most people. And so anyway, we got our first RPS in 2008, 25% by 2025. And that led to a bunch of small solar and a bunch of wind. And we saw some major tranches of wind come in the period 2009 to 2012. And I thought I'd work in wind, John, before I worked in solar. But quickly the program developed some problems, and the governor had the ability to sweep the funds. The state has been in a financial crisis for years. And so the program was pretty fatally flawed. And we were not hitting our goals, right? So we were not going to hit 25% by 2025. Then we got CEJA in 2016 when I got into solar full time, and that, was theoretically a fix. And initially it was great, and we had a huge boom in community solar and CNI solar, and then we ran out of rec money. So the program was also flawed, and I don't think it's rocket science to predict, how much rec money is going to lead to how much solar. And so whoever did that math made some serious boo-boos, and I don't think it's on Anthony Starr, who runs the IPA, the Illinois Power Agency, which oversees the program. But anyway, it was crocodile tears, and it was a boom and a bust, right? And so we needed additional resources, and then we got CEJA, the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, in 2021, and now it's happy days again, and the developers are looking for land leases for community solar. I mean, community solar went from, I think, $10 to $50 million a year under CEJA now. So that's very good. And there's significant monies for electrification of transportation in this bill. I'll put it on screen. There's a great update in Electrek, and so it's not just renewable energy. And to the haters out there, this is also funding keeping our nuclear fleet up and running. There were several nuclear plants that were on the verge of shutting down.
4 of them.
Yep. And so, once you have that big mass of concrete and steel and turbines running on fission, there's fission and fusion, and we like fusion, John, because it makes photons that makes everything happen here on Earth. Fission, it does create a lot of heat, which you make steam from and make a lot of electricity, but you also end up with a lot of radioactive waste. And so it is sort of dangerous. And you got this big machine that is super intense, hot, and if things go south, it goes boom, like Fukushima and other disasters around the world. But anyway, once the plant is running, you want to keep it running, right? Because it is low carbon, and that's the only way, for the in the near term, that Illinois certainly is going to get to a carbon free grid.
All right. So you think a lot's coming? You think it's going to be complex, but you think there's a real 10-year runway? Or do you think there's a chance that volume gets eaten quicker? Did they structure it in a way to keep it smooth? Business continuity? Is there a chance it sells out super fast? Because the last time
yeah, one of the nuances with the Illinois program is that it's the RECs pay out 15. They in the previous wave they paid out 15 years of RECs over 5 years, so you can see how that might lead to a boom and a bust because you're not collecting enough money fast enough to pay out the RECs. What that does is it makes the ROI shorter, the ROI period for commercial, industrial, community, and residential solar. Now the payback period, I think, is 7 years. So they're slowing the payback period. I mean, the RECs are we're paying 15 years of RECs over 7 years. So we're slowing that down a little bit. That's one tweak that was made. We're collecting much more money now on consumers' bills. And this is not a tax, it's a fee on your power bill. So if you're in Ameren or ComEd territory, those are the two big IOUs in Illinois, you look on your bill, you'll see there's a fee, and now that's up to, I think, 4%. So it's a small fee, relatively speaking, but when you put it all together, every ratepayer, every business owner, every consumer in those territories is paying in, and the utilities collect that money, and then they pay it out to system owners. So if you get a solar array, and that's really the only way to benefit directly, well, there's two ways. You get a solar array on your facility, on your roof, on your home, or on your business, or you subscribe to a community solar project, which now there's many of. And if you just go to your utility website, you'll find links to community solar projects that you can subscribe to. And if you just Google Community Solar Illinois, you'll find links. So that's all good. So will it be a boom and a bust? Only to the extent that the blocks, we're in block 5 now. There's going to be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And what's not clear is, when block 5 fills, how long will they wait to open block 6? And then how long will they wait to open block 7? I think some of those details are still being ironed out. But for all intents and purposes, we have a 10-year run now. And it's not that somebody couldn't derail this, in the future. It could get derailed, but it's a very good program, and it definitely stands out. But you're there in Massachusetts with one of the better programs in the country. And you tell me, what is it like being in one of the best solar markets in the U.S.? What's that like?
Interconnection is terrible. I mean, you got lots of solar and it gets installed and the returns on investment are nice, but then you have to tell customers, hey, we have 2 risks. One is your structure, zoning, but then the second is whether or not we're going to be able to connect this project to the grid. And when we do, and if we do, what's it going to cost and how long is it going to take? Like, for instance, I have a project right now in Rhode Island that's completing, and Rhode Island is parallelish, not the same, but similar-ish to Massachusetts. And, it's just every project has headaches. I did 2 small projects, like a 250 and a 60. And they had, we paid our standard interconnection fee, and both of them had impact studies for another $4,500. And I still haven't gotten our interconnection application. And it's been a year, and it's just painful sometimes. And so the market's great, it pays well, but interconnection reform is necessary. And to be blunt, I think the utilities are structured specifically to hurt interconnection. They're financially motivated to not want solar power, and that hurts us. It hurts developers. It adds fees, it adds uncertainty, slows down the sales process. But
it's a conflict of interest.
Yeah,
there's no doubt. And they are like God. The utility has to give you permission, and you play by their rules going through that process. And there's so many applications you can imagine that whoever's overseeing the utility has a huge job, and it's virtually impossible to create. If the utility wants to slow things down, they certainly can. And and then what about the story about PJM though, John? PJM wants to put interconnection on hold for 2 years, which is just nuts, right? That's a non-starter, and they're claiming, oh, we're overwhelmed with. Well, hire more people, for gosh sakes. You're a public utility. You're a public service. If you need resources, go talk to the DOE, because the DOE is flush with cash right now. We need a new system.
Yeah, I've heard some positives about what the logic is for PJM, because one could argue we're still very early in the machine of moving toward decarbonization, and one person I saw them write, and they said the plan is to move toward a much cleaner, quicker system, and they laid out the logic for what they're aiming toward. So it's not just straight up stop it, pause it. It's reconfiguring a bunch of things, but still, nonetheless, they're like, oh, 2,000 systems are in the queue. We're done. We're just going to stop. You can't do that. I mean,
there's one other thing about the Illinois program that I need our listeners to understand, though, and that is the storage incentive. And it's complicated, but generous. There's a $250 per kWh, not per kW, but per kWh.
That's nice.
And so a residential or commercial industrial battery is now going to pay off in a couple of years. And it's a big expense on the front end, relatively speaking, totally within many people's reach, but it's going to pay back quickly. And so then you have this asset which can keep the lights on if you wire it properly, right? For resiliency, for a blackout or a brownout. And we don't have a lot of blackouts here in Illinois. I have very few recollections I live in Ameren, very few times in the last 10 years when we've gone without power for any length of time. But would I like to have that assurance that, heck yeah, you never know when the big ice storm is coming that's going to knock down a bunch of power lines. So I would love to get somebody on the show, though, who looks at utility reform, and because there's so much pressure in the clean energy transition on the system that if they don't play ball, we're going to break the system, and we're just going to disrupt it and go around, and then the utilities will be obsolete. And every block, every home, every building will be their own utility, and there will be, there'll
be no utility.
Talk about not having a future. So the utilities either have to reform or go bye-bye, like the dinosaurs. What else we got on the docket, John? Let's get into the news.
So I don't know if you've heard it yet, but it just popped this morning. I covered it at PV Magazine, and it was embargoed until 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But Southern California Gas Company, not the utility, but a gas company, is submitting an application for 10 to 20 gigs of electrolyzer that would be powered, and electrolyzers generate hydrogen, and it would be powered by curtailed wind and solar and new wind and solar. They're estimating it takes 25 to 35 gigawatts of capacity, plus a little battery. And their goal is to deliver this hydrogen into LA via a network of like 200 to 700 miles of pipelines. It'd be for cars, it'd be for power line or power plants, it'd be for, well, not cars, but trucks, all kinds of stuff, industrial processes. And they're just looking, if you scroll down all the way at the bottom, they have a couple little graphics, but it's just the scope of it, the scale of it is just huge. And it's just kind of neat. I don't know, 25 gigs of wind and solar. So that's their idea of how it would be structured hypothetically, electrolyzers in the middle, grid, solar, batteries.
And so I was talking. This is relevant to this discussion. I was talking to the CEO of Terabase, who's coming on the show. Matt Campbell is his name. He said one of their goals is to make solar energy at 1 cent a kWh. And when you go to their website, just go to terabase.com. You'll see 1 cent a kWh. What that allows is for green hydrogen to be made for a dollar a kilogram.
Yep.
Today it's, I don't know, green hydrogen is maybe $12 a kilogram.
Something big, yeah.
And gray hydrogen might be a couple bucks. But so there's a tipping point that we need to cross, right, to make green hydrogen cost effective with traditional. So anyway, back to your story.
So in this particular article, they reference, or in the publication, they reference that their goal is to get it down to $1.50 per kilogram by 2030. And I also talked about the Biden administration. They just yesterday came out with a document saying their goal is to get it to, well, I think they've already talked about it, but they opened up the RFPs. We'll talk about this chart in a second, but they opened up the RFPs. I think we actually talked about this chart last week, but we'll talk about it again.
We did, yeah.
Yeah, but so the Biden administration is pushing for green hydrogen at $1 per kilogram by 2032. And that's a big number that a lot of people have talked about. And it's going to be driven by this image, the scaling of manufacturing of electrolyzers. So that's the key. How cheap are the machines that make the hydrogen? It's kind of like the solar panel of the hydrogen industry. Right now, they're super expensive, but the records are falling. The prior year, I mean, you can look at these capacities, 200, 135, 156. Well, this year, there was a 150 megawatt facility that came on. So look back at 2019. We've already had one place come online that's equivalent to 2019. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. What that means is that these machines are going to come down. And LONGi, one of the world's largest solar panel manufacturer, is getting into electrolyzer manufacturing. And they've already got units that are coming out of their factory. So
why is Asia Pacific such an early adopter here? They're completely swamping the Americas and Europe.
Well, it's China. And China has made energy, advanced energy, a fundamental tenet underwriting its national security. The U.S. did it with oil. And here's that cool little chart where they talk about volumes. But the U.S. did it with oil and our military going around the world. China is doing it with new energy. So if you think about, the U.S. has always had to go fight somebody to secure the oil. And that has led to creating a more stable world order. Well, the next time there's a big war in 2045, China might be able to say, we get 80% of our electricity and energy domestically. Let's go start some junk because we don't care if we mess up the global shipping lanes. So if the Strait of Malacca, which is just south of China between Indonesia, if that's blocked off by Chinese missiles sitting across, the world that's based on oil is going to get whacked. And China's going to be like, I don't care. So that's my opinion. The United States needs to step its game up if it cares about the national, stuff, the national security on this. I'm really interested in it. I'm interested in watching. I've never been super hot about hydrogen. Everybody always talks about it in cars just being inefficient, but everybody said solar was going to be too inefficient. Everybody said batteries would never work. Everybody says this and that. So I'm just not smart enough. Everybody said solar was going to be too inefficient. Just not smart enough to figure out it and hate it yet. And it's coming. It's coming in volume. And as it comes on in volume, price is going to change. And so I'm not ready to write off hydrogen, at least not as an energy backup source or as a large scale thing that's going on, because it's just too big. There's just too much.
Yeah, I totally agree that it's a national security issue, and it's a wake-up call that China is, they have a 100-year plan to completely make the energy transition. and because of their style of government, they can actually deliver on that. We go in 4-year fits of back and forth, and that just isn't going to get us there. We need to make it a long term plan and start going after it really hard. I mean, the good news is solar is probably going to 10x in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
The economics are driving that, and so for anybody in solar or who wants to get into solar from some other place, this is a great ticket to ride. But it doesn't solve the greater concern of, are we going to be competitive um, in the global economy? So and luckily we are fairly, I mean, the US is very rich in energy resources of all kinds, including hydro and of course solar, wind, and soon storage. But let's move along. You found a story on offshore wind about Vestas.
It's just a pretty picture. You guys share it.
Okay, I like pretty pictures. what what is it a picture of?
It's a half pipe.
Yeah, it is. It's a half pipe, and
You gotta scroll down a
that
little bit for the rest of us.
that half pipe
Oh,
is
that! Look how cool that is.
a turbine blade. It looks like, huh?
No, that's the mold. I believe that's the mold.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the
Yeah.
mold that they'll put the fiberglass and everything in, and just
Yeah.
make the blades. But look how cool that is.
I visited a turbine tower factory here in Central Illinois. I don't know if that factory is still running. It was about 4 years ago, and they would take in sheets of flat steel plates and then bend them and weld them into tubes that were about, I don't know, 30 feet a piece, something like that. And that was really cool. But yeah, these things are like ginormous whale fins. And
Okay. Well, fins. I like it.
National Test Center for Large Wind Turbines in West Yintland, Denmark. And yeah, so this is the 15 megawatt. That is, as far as I know, that's kind of like the new largest turbines that the industry is making, right?
Oh, actually, a little further down the article list, there's a 16.6
Okay.
megawatt unit that
Yeah.
has come out. And so right now, to the best of my knowledge, that's the largest one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to imagine. I mean, have you ever driven past the blades being taken down the road? They have a truck on the end and a truck on the front, right? And the truck in the back also can steer because it's such a long, awkward thing. And luckily, it's not that hard to navigate here in the Midwest where it's all flat. But I can't imagine going up a mountainside with one of those things.
I've seen some really cool images and videos of these drivers, and they are just sweet. It looks absolutely terrifying, but they're just cool looking as they go up. And you see like the truck, but then it has this thing just sticking up out of it, and it's driving with this really pointy thing, and it's like, oh my goodness, how do you do that? And it turns, and it's just neat. I've never seen one in person, only seen videos. Yeah, and the only time I've really been outside of a nice wind farm is driving up and down the highway in Indiana. It's just like whoosh, they're just so big. It's just cool to see it.
So it looks like John Weaver is no longer a Tesla owner. And that tweet, though, is not it's not showing up for me.
Oh.
So I will Google the Ionic 5.
Yeah.
But remind our listeners, we were talking a little bit about this last week.
Yep.
What happened, and why have you gone to the less dark side?
Yeah, you know what? Let me see if I can. You mind if I try and share one?
Go for it.
On-site experimentation, ladies and gentlemen. If I get knocked off, it's Tim's fault.
When you click share, it has a couple options. You gotta pick a window that's a separate window from the stream.
Oh, look at all that. There's all kinds of neat stuff. I like this. I like this. Commercial solar guy. We're gonna share that.
But why did you go with the Ionic and not the EV6?
Well, because so first off, can you see my screen?
I can see it, but I don't think it's in the stream yet.
Ooh, there it is.
Yeah, maybe I had to do that.
So that is the reason is two. One, it costs, if you look down in the lower bottom, it costs $45,000 versus the current price of a Tesla being at like 70. And two, I got 10 grand in incentives, 7,500 from the feds and 25 from Massachusetts. So now it's from a $45,000 car to a $35,000 car. Three, it's available right now for me to go pick it up because it's on a lot. And I tried to pick up a Tesla, a new one. It's January of next year. So all those things came together, and I said, with me moving to downtown Boston and doubling or tripling my beautiful cheap rent, maybe I should be a little more cost effective. And so that's it. So that's
I'm going to put the Ionic on screen here. Ooh. And so people can see what we're talking about.
Mine's the green one. Mine's the green one, so it doesn't have the cool rims, and it's a darker green, electric teal is what they call it. I like it because it can get dirty and I never have to wash it.
It's got the door handles that kind of pop out. That's cool.
I can plug in that back end. It's got a spot where you can just straight plug an item into it. Like you literally take a cord, a big yellow cord, and clunk.
Yeah.
So it's called vehicle to load, is what they call it.
Yeah. And does it come with that hardware, or is that something you buy from Hyundai?
I'm told that the plug is standard. It's just a normal extension cord.
Yeah. The only, honestly, this is very dorky, but look at the size of the port on the charger. That's one of the things that I always liked about my Tesla is the nozzle is just very narrow and streamlined. Why can't other charging infrastructure get that right?
I don't know. I don't care. It's underneath a little metal thing that hides it.
It's so funny that it bothers me, but that's the thing. Well, and access to superchargers, of course, bothers me, but we'll solve that problem. The supercharger problem will not be a long-term problem. It might be a short-term problem.
Well, actually, I have a story on that later down. I mean, Tesla's Supercharger Network, about 4 stories down below this one, Tesla's Supercharger Network is now available to all cars in the Netherlands, and Tesla has communicated that might also happen in the United States. So if that
we should cover that story right now. Let's do that because since we're talking about EVs, and I'll put it on screen.
We got like 4 EV articles all bunched together that are related though following this. So it's EV Day.
That's cool. Most consumers still are like, what? EV? Does that work? And the question that my friends have been asking is, well, Tim, if you got stuck in a snowstorm the way they did down in Virginia, a couple months ago, can it keep you warm? And I'm like, well, yeah, look, there's stories about that. The battery has a lot of energy in it. It could keep your house running for 3 days,
I sleep in my EV. I go camping with the goal of sleeping in the car when I can't get there in time to set up tent, or when it's just in a weird place or it's raining or whatever. And the car has a feature like Tesla has camp mode, and you don't even have to do camp mode. That's just pretty screen thing, but you just turn on the HVAC and it just runs indefinitely. So it'd be better than having a car running, because cars, their heating and cooling is dependent on the car itself driving. So it's better than that getting stuck on the highway in an EV than in a gas vehicle. So this one is about Tesla and their Supercharger network now being open to other cars. Apparently there's a CCS charging standard, which is for all other cars except for Tesla. And now Tesla's network allows those. That's coming to the United States. I believe in the Build Back Better fund, or no, pardon me, the infrastructure fund. There's money for Tesla to open up their charging network to other cars. And if that happens, then the number one concern I have about the Ionic, which is I'm having it less and less as I get better at being a charging guy. But the number one concern that I always had is how to charge on the highway specifically, because locally it's got 300 miles, not worried. Got 3 days to find a charger. But on the highway, when I'm dropping 1,000 miles in a day and a half, I need to be able to charge. And now, if Tesla opens it up in the US, that just dissipates 900%. It's already mostly gone in my mind, because Electrify America and this charger and that charger and this charger, they all seem to be there somewhere. Not as cool as Tesla right there on the rest stops, but every once in a while I'm seeing them at the rest stops, these other charging, and that's pretty cool. And some of them are faster than the Tesla Supercharger, like 800 kV or 800 volts versus the Tesla, which goes up to 250. Now, my car apparently has an 800 volt charging capacity. I'm afraid to use that though, because I think it's going to, doesn't it wear down the battery faster? I don't know enough, but I'm going to, I got to learn now about a new car. So, I'll have some pictures in the coming weeks. I think I'll pick it up maybe this weekend. We'll see how the registration and insurance and all that kind of stuff works.
Yeah. So Supercharger Network is open in Netherlands. That's official. They're going to Norway and France. It looks like, according to that article. All I care about is, when is it coming to Illinois?
Of course. You don't even own an EV. When are you going to get an EV again? Come on.
I know. I'm ready for my Rivian Cybertruck or Ford Lightning. So game on, Ford, Rivian, and Tesla. I'm betting on Ford, but when is Tesla? That's one of the. It is starting to wear on me a bit. I love Elon Musk, but do stuff and then deliver it in a timely manner. I'm talking about the charging now. The cars I can understand. Okay, he's got to sell a lot of Model Ys first. I want him to sell a lot of Model Ys. And there's going to be a shortage of batteries, so that's why he can't make Cybertrucks right now.
Which is what our next 3 stories are to talk about.
When are we going to get supercharging opened in Illinois so I can take advantage of the incentives? We also have these incentives in Illinois now to bring down the cost of an EV. I might be able to do it if I didn't have range anxiety.
Stressful. I get it.
So battery factories.
Yeah,
battery capacity. Yeah, a lot of stories about batteries here.
And I thought to bring that up because Jazz, the first one is just a map of a whole bunch of battery factories that are being launched in Europe. And it's like, there's like 20, 30, 40 of them. And so it's kind of a cool list to see. And you got to think, with all those factories coming, that's a lot of capacity. The next link is this guy named Simon Moore, who you should get on the show probably. And he's a... You should get him, dude. So this is just a list of look at all these battery factories coming. Everywhere, 200 gigawatts for Tesla, 50 for Norvolt, 2.5 gigawatts, 35, 100, 24, 64. I mean, what's this number total? It's got to be 500 gigawatt hours. I don't know if it's a terawatt.
Although look at that number, that Tesla at 200 gigawatt hours. That is off the charts. I mean, CATL is only at 100 gigawatt hours, and CATL is probably the largest global battery manufacturer.
They are the largest. Well, it's 100 gigawatt hours for that facility.
Yeah, of course they have a handful of these. I don't know what their gigawatt hour capacity is in China. It's massive, though.
Yeah.
Um,
They're number one, CATL. CATL sells cells to Tesla, of course, as well.
yeah.
So that's cool. So there's that chart. Now, go to the second link. So go to the link said complementing the above reality of mining for lithium. And we just get a neat little chart showing the capacity of mining globally for lithium, and you could start to see it pop. And we got to wonder what's going to happen next as that volume explodes. Because right now we're in the 100 terawatt hours or 100 gigawatt hours of manufacturing capacity, maybe 200 at most, of just a couple hundred. And we're just starting to see a little bump. That's a pretty sharp jump right there. What do you think is going to happen over the next, little while? The next.
It's going to go vertical.
It's going to go vertical, dude. It's now it can't go vertical though. It can't fully go vertical for one reason though that I'm being taught. Lithium mining takes time to come online. So it can't go vertical in 22, 23, but 24, 25, 26, it's going to go home because the facilities are being started today. It's going to take, you got to like dig a giant hole. You got to build giant roads. You got to build X machines to manufacture it, a whole bunch of things. Now look at the link of battery capacity manufacturing in the pipeline by 2030. And this is really the Simon guy we got to talk to and get on the show.
Well, that's the story. We just did that.
Yeah, no. So one above that. Do the one above that. This one right here.
No, we just did that.
No, we didn't. We did the European one. That's two above that. Now, this is for global manufacturing. 5.4 terawatt hours of manufacturing capacity per year in the pipeline by 2030. Now, right now, we do not have the lithium ion capacity to do it. I mean, the volumes that are coming are just huge. Right now, 2021, we're at a terawatt hour. Okay, there it is. 5 years.
A terawatt.
But, and this number is going to keep getting bigger. This number is not going to just stop. It's not like these people are like, okay, we're good. We got 5. We're done. No. It's going beyond that. It's going to, we might have 10 terawatt hours by the time we get to 2031. And so that means that chart, that lithium ion mining chart, it's going to be, like you said, it's got to go vertical at some point to catch up with this. At least 5x. Maybe not vertical, but 5x. And, 3x in the next 5 years. And then 5 years after that, it's going to double again. So
mark my words, in 10 years, every house is going to have a battery in it. And you just don't see it, right? And I think the average consumer is going to be completely flabbergasted by this transition. There's many challenges. I'm frankly a little concerned about the EV industry because EVs do become more economical, but can we keep up, right?
That's the truth. So I don't know if I mentioned it in the last show, but I bought my Tesla in September of 2020. I put 34,000 miles on it. And then when my insurance company decided to total it, they covered 100% of the purchase price plus $11,000. That speaks of the demand challenge that's going on.
Yeah.
My car appreciated in value after accounting for 34,000 miles of usage on it.
Yeah,
it's going to be a challenge to roll out these EVs to consumer demand levels.
I don't know why I didn't get more for it, but I sold my car to a dealer and I got what I paid, so I was happy.
I yelled at the insurance company. And I said, "You guys have to replace my car. That's what I paid for. So go find me the money to replace my car." And that's how it worked out. And I barked. And it also took me a month to get it finalized, and I ended up getting an independent appraiser, and I threatened a lawyer, and then they're like, "All right, here's your money," and it worked out. So you want to
So
see a chart?
I want to skip the wind turbine and go to your next story about from PB Magazine, Texas.
All right, we can do that one. What about my chart of high efficiency solar panels? Do that one after the PV magazine story because it's panels, man. We got to talk about solar panels at least
Okay, can
once.
you move it around? I want the ledger to reflect the
It is fixed,
recording.
sir. It is fixed.
But I'm going to put this on screen. You have a very obtuse title. They love me not. A tale of solar power romance.
I'm having
A
fun.
Texas,
Come on, let me
a
have some
Texas
fun.
author opposing renewable energy has published a list of 17 rejected solar power projects across the United States since 2017. 17 doesn't strike me as a big number, but
It's not. It's not, especially since 2,600 have been installed in the same time period.
yeah.
But I
So
wanted to show off.
is that your gripe to pick with this guy? Is that
he's a Texan energy specialist. Blah blah blah. I'm about real energy, and I just thought we should bring it up, and I thought we should talk about it, and call him to the ground and be like, all right, you got this cool database of 17 projects. Awesome, man. Hey, I'm gonna do some quick math. What is the percentage? 27 divided by 2681. So 0.0, so less than 1%. So 0.6%, not even 1%, 0.6%. And now this is real though. Look at this. As solar plants have expanded in their rollout and the fossil fuel pushback and the locals getting a little bit of a feel, there has been pushback against large scale wind and solar sitting in the middle of nowhere. And at least the public perception of it has fallen off a bit on the Republican side of things for large scale solar. So that is something real. But we're still building massive amounts and it's still coming. And this guy, he's a bit misguided, but it's good to point out that the reality is that not everybody likes solar, and that's okay.
but still 73%? That's the low number, right? For Republicans supporting solar. I think that's an awesome number.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 93% for Dems, but 73 is still an awesome number. I can live with that.
I think so.
We're never going to get everybody on board with the change in the land that large scale solar represents. And we're going to be doing a show with TigerCom about this topic. Mike Casey's all hot under the collar, and so
what does TigerCom do?
What does TigerCom do?
Yeah, tell us.
TigerCom is a PR firm focused on clean tech. They are exclusively focused on clean tech. So if you're looking for a PR firm, check out TigerCom. And or if you're looking for sales and marketing support, check out the Clean Power Consulting Group.
That's you, Tim.
cleanpower.group. That's my new consulting firm. And we love working with technical founders who have a tried and true product, but who are staged for breakthrough growth. That is my specialty, is creating a breakthrough. And I leverage my network, of course. I leverage my knowledge and experience in clean energy. And then I also do executive coaching, and I am establishing several clean tech executive mastermind groups. So if you're a clean tech exec looking to leverage the brain trust of other clean tech executives, a mastermind is a great way to do that. Check out cleanpower.group. Back to the news, John. We only have a few minutes here, so let's be selective about what we bring. And but I really appreciate all your writing in PV Magazine, and you should not hesitate to bring your what about agrivoltaics? Last week you teased me that you had written a story about agrivoltaics, and then you didn't bring it to the show. And what?
We didn't get to my agrivoltaic story last. I write stories about agrivoltaics a lot.
It's a very important topic because
I
talk about we're both fans of multi-use solar, right? If you're taking a farm field and converting it to a solar field, why not also graze the land, make sheep, make wool, and make honey? There's other ag products that could be made, and make habitat. That's the thing that I'm most excited about with dual use is, pollinator friendly, as it's called, planting native plants, reduces runoff from the site, increases carbon sequestration of the soil. Soil is a wonderful source of carbon sequestration when left to its own devices. When you don't pour tons of chemicals and insecticides on it and kill everything in the soil, it turns out that soil carbon is a huge, huge sink, and we need that, right? We need to suck carbon out of the air. So, what's our next story?
So I think the next one is about solar PPAs combined with solar PPA procurement next to solar PPA pricing. And so the next story, I wrote it as well for PV Magazine, and I saw two charts that were floating out there. One is from Bloomberg, and it showed that over the last year there were 33 or 31 gigawatts of renewables procured by corporate groups across the globe. In the United States, or the North America dominated or not dominated, but was the majority of the volume, or the Americas, pardon me, was the majority of the volume, 17, 18 gigs. And then solar was the majority of that.
Yeah.
And so the first is that, bam, corporate procurement of clean energy is growing regularly. And there's a cool chart just showing it nice, smoothly going up. And so we got there you go. Oh, look at that. 35 gigs. So I think last year it was 33 or something like that, 31. So that's a lot of corporate buying of clean energy, which is great. But what occurred was really interesting over the last year. If we keep going down, it's that, as both you and I know, the price of solar has actually gone up.
Yes.
And here we see over the last year, price of solar has gone up 15%. And a whole bunch of it happened in Q4, but it's across the whole nation. And it really may have even started in late 19 that the pricing started staying flat, at least, and going up. But these are solar PPAs per level 10 energy. So it's not a pure database of everything. But I'll tell you, I have not seen any headline articles saying new record low price. In fact, last time I saw an article in Saudi Arabia, the former place that was getting close to a cent per kilowatt hour, it went up. It went up 30%. So the coolest, most interesting thing about this is not the fact that it's going up. It's the fact that it's going up and we're setting record volumes at the same time. What does that say, Tim? That maybe the solar generation price has hit a point where we no longer have to cut, and beat ourselves up to get that cheapest number. Maybe now we can have a little bit of breathing room. We're still going to compete with each other because we all want to get the deal. But maybe with the price of gas going up, maybe with coal going through the roof, maybe with the world as complex as it is, with Ukraine, Russia, Europe, what all the complexities we have. Maybe it means that we've gotten to the point where solar is so important, so fundamental, that the price can go up a little bit and we're still cool. Because we have seen as the price has gone up and the volume has gone up. And, normally the economists in the room will be like, oh, well, prices are up, so that means demand will go down. Well, no, demand has gone up and pricing has gone up. So we got two upward charts. Normally the economists like charts like this. Supply up, price down. Demand up, price, it's two upward charts.
Yeah. So it's interesting how much lower the price is. So we're looking at 2.8 cent PPAs in CAISO and ERCOT. So that's California and Texas, versus, 3.6 6 cents in MISO and SPP, which is the middle part of the country. Is that because of the solar resource or because of the logistics involved, or what is your theory about that? I'm just curious.
I mean, it's got to have something to do with the resource. I mean, if you have 10% more electricity coming out of your system in Southern California and Texas, then that'll help. But I bet it's also, Texas is cheap because it's Texas. There's no laws. Did you know, Tim, that you don't need permits in Texas on private land?
I didn't know that, but
let me ask again, Tim, do you believe that?
In certain jurisdictions, I could believe it. I'm sure it varies by county.
There's environmental requirements, but no permit needs.
Yeah.
It's weird. I can't comprehend that coming from Massachusetts, where everything is really tight managed. Yeah. So there's different rules, different dynamics, and of course, the further north you go, you get to like Minnesota and Wisconsin, where there are giant projects being built, and the same hardware simply makes 15% less electricity, and so there's that. And I would guess also the power grid costs are different, and Texas is still early in its solar revolution. And so its grid has still got a lot of space, but that's going to change real soon, man. It's going to change real fast. We're going to see that daytime go, and then there's going to be more pressure, and maybe we'll see the price of Texas solar drop even more than it already is. So it's cool to see pricing go up and demand still increasing, because that means we got something good. That means we know what's going on, and that's pretty cool. Because we just like that. We like that a lot.
All right. Well, should we wrap with this solar job story?
Sure. I just thought it was a neat chart. It's not really a story. It's just a cool chart. If anybody's looking for a job in the solar industry, you want to get just a little tiny bit of insight about what it might pay, solarpower.guide has put together this little PDF, and I just thought it was cool looking, and so I thought we might share it and be like, all right, here's what you do.
Which solar jobs pay the most? And what is the answer to that question?
Engineering, developer.
Yeah.
I mean, developers get paid the most, probably. Early stage developers get paid the most when they get paid. So every 3 years, you get really nice paychecks, but then you got to save all that cash. So, installers, of course, are tighter in their payment, but those numbers are being pushed up. And if we were to ever choose to sign the Build Back Better deal, any project over a meg would be required to do prevailing wage, which would push up that installer number. Solar lawyer. So if you scroll down a little bit, they get into the list. So the lawyers, of course, make all the money. Developers, engineers, pretty cool stuff. I just like the jobs. I like going through the list.
What is this organization, solarpower.guide? I'm not familiar. It's a great chart. I agree. This is cool.
Just like some marketing dude probably generating leads. I guarantee you it's for lead generation.
Yeah.
It's probably not an organization. It's probably a dude who's making $5 per lead that he sells. It's just a neat chart. So solarpower.guide.
Yep. Check it out. Solarpower.guide. We will have the links in all of the show notes on cleanpowerhour.com. That is our website where you can find all of this content. Please subscribe to the podcast, give it a thumbs up, give it a like and a review, share it with your friends, reach out to us. We want to hear from you if you have ideas for topics or speakers to have on the show. We haven't done an interview with the two of us, John, in a while, but John and I do interviews. I do solo interviews also because John is too busy to work outside of normal hours, but I understand, and that's fine. It's a both and. We love bringing you the news about the energy transition. How can our listeners find you, Mr. Commercial Solar Guy?
CommercialSolarGuy.com is the best way. If you want to see 30 tweets every day, you can go to my Twitter account. If you want to see a message or 3 every week, you can check me out on LinkedIn. But this is the best place, commercialsolarguy.com. I haven't updated my articles in so long because I started writing for PV Magazine full time, not full time, but every day again. So now I'm writing massive volumes for PV Magazine. I got to figure out how to get articles on my own website again but this is my team. This is my development team. That's Jason. He's a landman. Rochelle, she does project development. She's going to be our salesperson in Rhode Island very soon. She lives there and she's learning very quickly, quite a bit. Really like working with both Jason. Jason's got a 80 megawatt New York community solar portfolio. Oh, starting to get itchy and excited, dude. Oh man, last night I got a new project of the week, Tim. I should have brought it up, but I didn't think about it. Last night we were given zoning approval for the Farmer Brown solar power plant in Appalachia, New York, and it's going to be 5 meg AC, 4.95, and about 7-ish megs DC. We don't know the exact final number yet, but we're going to maximize it, whatever we can get. And that's our first large.
So where are you in this process? Like, this pushes the project to what, 80 or 90% that it will get built? Or
I would say 98, because number one, we have interconnection approval and we have our budget. Number two, this is zoning. Number three, the state of New York has said this is what we will pay you for solar and the incentives and everything when it comes out. But it's going to take like 2 or 3 more months for them to finalize the documents. And the state has already tentatively said they're going to do it. So, and offtake, we've already got in place. So we got zoning now. Now it's only the first half of zoning. We still do have to get finalized the city level zoning. But city level, if the county approves it, then the city's generally going to go for it, from the way I've been taught by the land guy. But I would say this project is now, man, this project's a go. Like, it's probably smart to call it 85%, but the project's a go. Me as the sales guy, heck yeah, it's ready. Let's do it, baby. So that's cool. This is going to be our first utility scale community solar project, man. And I've never been directly involved with one. A commercial solar guy's name's going to be all over it. We're the developer. We're going to manage the construction crew. We'll do procurement, all the good fun stuff. And that's number one. We got another. I was just working on the list this morning from 10 to 10:30 with Shalim. And Shalim and I we got all 15 of the projects into a spreadsheet. Each has their own tab. And now we're building the cumulative tab so that we can get our waterfall of costs over the next 18 to 24 months as we start to figure out fees, development, and then construction, procurement, etc. And so the goal is to get it to 100 megs. Just to pick a number. And we're getting close. Jason's great. He's a great landman. He's great at chasing. And then if you folks are looking for any projects in New York, if you got 20 acres, give us a ring. We're building, we're working. So that's where you can find us as well.
And you and I will both be at RE Plus Northeast next week in Boston. That is on the 23rd and 24th of February. So if you want to shake hands or sit down and have a cup of coffee, check it out. RE Northeast in Boston. And hopefully
Tim, where can everybody find you?
Yeah, where can you find me? I'm everywhere, like you, John. I don't recommend shouting from a mountaintop. John might be easier to find that way. You can find me at cleanpower.group. That's my website. You can find me on LinkedIn. I love to connect with people on LinkedIn. Please reach out to me. That's a great way to communicate with me. TG Montague on Twitter. And that is also my Gmail handle. So TG Montague. And I do tweet about solar, despite what the commercial solar guy thinks. The only reason you don't know that I tweet about solar is because you don't follow me. That is a conundrum, John. How are you going to know, right, if you don't follow me? So
This is
that's the
true.
challenge of the week: is will the commercial solar guy actually follow TG Montague? That's the question. Hey, well, thank you for being here, John. Thanks for bringing
Yep.
us such great stories. And let's grow solar and storage. I'm Tim Montague. Have a great week, everybody. We'll be in touch.